In southwest Michigan, there are two towns separated by a river, St. Joseph and Benton Harbor. These two towns have a long history of segregation and inequality, and while there is a bridge connecting the sister cities, the cultural divide is something that has not gone away. All God's Children Choir was created in 2001, and is comprised of kids between the ages of 4 and 18. While the kids in this choir have wildly different backgrounds, ambitions, lives, and dreams, this choir was formed as a way for children and families from all walks of life to come together and spend time with each other. Due to the production of this documentary taking place during the COVID-19 pandemic, certain aspects had to be taken into account for the safety of everyone involved. The number of people had to be kept to a minimum, and the subjects had to be kept separate, unless they lived in the same household. While this wasn't ideal, this was the way we decided to proceed to ensure everyone's safety.
When we initially started talking to people about the idea of having a choir with kids from each side of the river, we repeatedly heard, well, this is never going to work. People from St. Joe are going to be afraid to come into Benton Harbor, and people from Benton Harbor are going to be afraid to come into St. Joe.
When we first came to St. Joe Benton Harbor, that it felt like a step back in time. We felt like we were in 1950, that the segregation was so dramatic, and the fact that people were telling us that folks don't go back and forth across that bridge. A child could go from kindergarten through high school and never be in a class with a child whose appearance was different than their own.
And the fundamental idea we had is that if we give people a chance to get to know one another, then stereotypes and prejudice can be reduced, people can know each other as individuals, and that will be good for everybody. We chose a choir in part because music is something that we know and love.
We're old folk singers, or I could put it this way, we're very seasoned. We're seasoned folk singers, and we were both involved in the civil rights movement, and I could see singing in some of those groups how powerful music was and what a bonding experience it provided for people. We thought as we were structuring it, we need leadership from both sides of the river. We need people that look like the diverse group of children we're hoping to recruit. We were so lucky early on to have a couple pastors, one black and one white, on the Race Relations Council, and they offered to have the children in their youth choir be part of the beginning group that we started to build on, and that's how we had the connection to Hursel, who was a loved and respected choir director in Benton Harbor.
When I came on, it just felt like the right thing to do. I was like, yeah, I can do that, and I was already, had probably like 30 or 40 kids in the choir at my church or more that I would pick up and bring to choir rehearsal. So it didn't seem too out of the norm when the pastor asked me to do that. Pastor Melvin Burden, Freshman Fountain, he asked me would I like to do that. I was like, sure.
What's interesting, at the first rehearsal, you could see that the children were becoming more at ease with each other more quickly than the parents.
I would talk to the parents. I would engage in conversations with the parents that I didn't know and that didn't know me. And that helped us to really, really become close, because we had the adults working together to get to know each other, and also the children now seeing their parents engage and interact with someone different that made them want to do it even more. It was like a show and tell. When they come in, we give them a few minutes to get settled, say hi, things like that. Then we'll get them in, and they always do a warm-up.
Warming them up with certain songs, sometimes it does not always work. They do not want to sing it. They will not sing it. I am totally against that. I don't want to do it. You're not going to make me. So, I usually,
big guns.
Yeah, I usually, that's when they'll call Kortney, because Kortney will make up a song at the drop of a hat, and have everybody in the room singing right along with it. Like little feathers. Yeah, I want you to sing this part. I want you to do a solo this time. And they're like, no, and I'll see them look back, and whoever they look back at for that encouragement, oh, well, you come sing it with them, And so now it's a duet. No need to be nervous. There's two of you. So that's how I handle it, because when you're singing with a friend, it's no longer performing. It's just singing. It's just having fun. I'm singing with a friend.
I used to call them a Showtime choir because we would have rehearsals that we would be like, oh my God. But every single time, they have never faltered during a performance. That's why I was calling them a Showtime choir, because when it's time to perform, them babies show out.
All God's Children choirs performed in various different towns and cities all over the Midwest, as well as with various different bands and singers such as Gemini, Peter Yarrow, Pam Chappell, and Ben Vereen. One performance in particular that is very important to the choir is the Martin Luther King Day Breakfast at Lake Michigan College. Initially, the choir directors thought that the performance would be a one-time thing. However, as time went on, they found that the choir kept getting invited back to sing year after year, and now it's an annual tradition. These performances were also a personal favorite of mine every year. And yep, that's right, I was also a member of the choir. So was my younger brother.
One Martin Luther King Day, we got a call from people at Navy Pier in Chicago saying, we saw you on the internet and we would love to have your choir come perform at Navy Pier. And we said, we'd love to do that, but we have a commitment to perform every MLK Day for the Lake Michigan College breakfast commemoration. And so the person said, I bet if we send a tour bus to pick you up after you're finished singing at Lake Michigan College and bring you to Navy Pier in Chicago. And we thought about it for about half a second and said, what a wonderful idea.
For some of our choir members, they'd never been to Chicago. Some of the choir members had never seen a skyscraper. So there was also that exposure to the world outside Berrien County, and that was valuable. And then we were dealt with in such a respectful way. They built a stage in the middle of the family pavilion. We had breaks in between two performances, and people came up and said, where are you all from? Because we don't usually see this kind of easy camaraderie between black and white kids and black and white grown-ups. And so their vision was that Southwest Michigan must be a really comfortably integrated place. So we were very interested that it was noteworthy even in an urban center. I think that one of the things that often warms our heart is to see how people that grew up together in the choir retained their friendship over time, so that they send us pictures of themselves in each other's wedding party, or attending the christening of each other's babies.
I remember this like it was yesterday, the year 2000. We were on our way to the first rehearsal, and she told me, you're gonna make some friends, and you're gonna like it.
I don't.
Okay, no, this is my first time going too, so naturally I'm a little nervous myself. The first practice of All God's Children, I told you I remember it. I met a lifelong friend who I am still friends with her to this day. I was just in her wedding a few years ago. I'm her kid's godmom. She's my son's, favorite aunt, that's the relationship that I built.
We had a mom whose job was redefined and she needed computer skills she didn't have. And a dad from the other side of the river took a half day off and came over to her workplace and brought her up to speed.
Seeing the parents interact with each other, then the kids going over each other's houses and staying the night and just forming these awesome bonds that are gonna last their lifetime, I believe. They're gonna always be in touch with each other, even if it's a text every 6 months. The fact that you thought about me to text me, thank you, and that they keep those relationships going on.
One of our anchors in terms of how we thought about building a life of a choir was to remember that Dr. King said, we fear each other because we don't know each other. And we don't know each other because we're so often separate from one another.
I have absolutely no fear of meeting new people.
That's awesome.
I absolutely love meeting new people. And I noticed that my children are this same way.
The basic idea of this is if people come together, they can get to know each other, and stereotypes and prejudice can be reduced. It could be any activity. It doesn't have to be a choir. It could be a dance group. It could be a sports team. It could be a group of people getting together to build a community garden. But as long as people are coming together in positive ways and getting to know each other as people, then the desired result will happen.
There's always room to do more. You know, we know that not just this community, but every community still has a lot of work to do to recognize our relationships with one another and the richness that we can glean if we give ourselves the opportunity to know each other more deeply.
I'm just gonna say the lyrics of one of my favorite songs by one of my favorite artists, who we sang with, by the way, Pamela Chappelle, One Person at a Time. We can build a world of peace one person at a time. I can't change the whole world wide, but I can change the world inside. So we start from heart to heart, one person at a time.
That's it.
And so we start from heart to heart, one person at a time.